Okay, guys, welcome to yet another video, and this time is about Linux. And it's about Linux and how to create a live USB with a persistent file. That means that we're not going to install an ISO Linux distribution in the USB so you can actually move it and install it or try it in a different PC, but we are going to create a live USB that you can actually use this Linux distribution, and you can use it with downloading and installing programs and keep your files in them, and if you remove it from the PC it's going to keep them, and the next time you're going to try it with either on the same PC or in a different PC or laptop, you are going to see that any changes you've made is kept there intact, so you can actually have a full Linux distribution working from a USB. And that's quite fascinating if you want to have an OS and a full working OS or in your pocket. That's easy. The first thing to do is to download one of the best, as I think, tools out there of creating live, and this is Rufus, one of the best. Let me change the language. Perfect. Now, as you can see, Rufus is a tool to create bootable USB drive. It's quite easy to use. No extra knowledge is required. You can download it from here. It's actually, at the moment that we are shooting this tutorial, it's in the 3.13 version. That's fine, and it's automatically downloaded. You can see that here I have downloaded a few times. And the next thing that we're going to need is actually an ISO file from the Linux distribution that we wish to use. I'm going to use Linux Mint. Now you can always visit. You can always use any of your distributions as you wish, but this is what I've chosen, and it's quite easy to navigate. You're going to find that the first page you will see that there are news. It's so-called in the home page it's some kind of a blog, and you'll see a few news about the Linux Mint community and the releases and changes. And the one that we're going to use is the cinnamon one. This is the one that I want to use, and be aware that the cinnamon is it's a quite nice desktop. I've used it and I'm using it in several computers and several PCs and laptops, and it's working fine. It's really doing the job. Don't be afraid of it, because it's you're not going to face any problems even if you're a rookie in the Linux environment. So press download, and you're going to find the cinnamon with the cinnamon desktop here. You can always change the desktop. It's another procedure that you're going to see in another tutorial, but at the moment cinnamon is going to be fine. I'm going to use a server to download. You can actually find servers near your place. The fastest way for me is to find the one I'm recently in Athens, so I'm going to use the NTUA server. It's the National Technical University of Athens. I have studied there as an engineer, as mechanical engineering, and I think it's the faster way to download it. And it's going to download in a few minutes. Now I have already downloaded this. Okay, why it's not downloading? Okay. Just give it one moment to connect with the server and then okay. And that's going to be fine. I've already downloaded the ISO file, and what I have created also is, and I suggest you do the same, is a file where I place all my, you can see that where I place all my Linux distributions. You can see that right here, Debian, Fedora, Linux Lite, Linux Made, Ubuntu, with a lot of Ubuntu versions, from light ones, Ubuntu Made, Kalina, Kubuntu, Ubuntu Made, Ubuntu Bungie, Ubuntu Studio, and you can create, and I also have the latest Linux Mint here with Cinnamon. This is the previous one, this is the Alicia, the recent one. So actually when you finish download that, I suggest that you create a folder and save all the Linux distribution that you download in a folder for easy access for you. Don't leave it in the download folder. Yeah, it's going to be too crowded if you're using and experimenting a lot. Then your download folder is going to get, really flooded, and you're going to search for a long time if you want to find anything. So I'm actually organizing my Linux Mint like that. This is the one that we're going to use. Now, how the procedure works? Quite simple. You have your Rufus as you've downloaded. You can open it from the download page. Here you can press and run it from here. And this is actually the screen that you're going to use. Now, as a device, the first thing that we have to do is plug one of the USB available, and I suggest we are going to use a USB at least 16 gigabytes. The name is going to be 16 gigabytes. It's not actually 16 gigabytes. There are a few, it's a little bit less, but that doesn't mind. We don't mind about that. And then you see this button. It says select. Boot selection is disk or ISO image. Please select, and you press select. And now we're going to move to our, as I told you, in my desktop I have a folder with all the Linux distributions. You can install whichever you want. I'm going to use Linux Mint, and I'm going to use Linux Mint Cinnamon 60 by the 20, the latest. There is nothing you want to change here. I wouldn't change anything, but this is the one that we're going to focus, and it's the persistent. I want you to pay attention. The persistent partition size. This is where we want to create, and it's an actually file, an and I'm going to use 4 gigabytes for that file. This file will contain all the information that you change when you use the USB, the live USB with your Linux distribution. That means that if we are going to install a new program or update already existing programs, this file is going to keep those information. So when you plug out the USB from the one PC that you traditionally used and use it in another computer or use it in another day, another time, those informations will be there. Any files you saved, any programs installed, everything, every information, even the history from your browser, everything you have done, it's going to be there, and it requires a certain file to keep those informations when you log out and log in again. And this is very, very powerful, very, very powerful, and I suggest you use it. Now the rest is quite simple. It's going to do a quick format on our USB drive, and then create an extended label and icon files for the same USB, so you can actually have it easily recognized when you use it. Now press start. You can see here the device is the USB stick. It gave the E letter for that. It's 16 gigabytes. The boot selection is Linux Mint 20 ISO, and we have 4 gigabytes here for the persistent partition size. That's all you need to do. It's going to create a FAT32 file system with a cluster size of 8 gigabytes. You can understand. You don't need to change any of that. You can lower this a little bit, but by default it's fine. It's not going to create any problems. And you can also check the device for bad blocks. This is going to take some time. It's good it's good to use if your USB is not new, it's old and you have used it in several occasions. So if you have any questions is if the USB is still fully functional, then you can also check it by clicking this box. I don't have any questions. It's a USB that I've used, but I have already checked and it's working quite well, so I'm not going to use this. This one I'm not going to check, so I don't need to check this. So I'm going to press start. The image but the application only includes installation files for Linux. A new version of Linux are not compatible with one another, and it will be possible for Rufus to include them all. Two additional files must be downloaded from the internet. Linux is this is actually, your the Rufus is going to download two more files from the internet. Press yes, there's no problem. All data on device USB-E will be destroyed. To continue with this operation, click OK. To quit, click cancel. Now I had something inside my USB, and it's going to be erased. I don't have a problem with that. I don't want to use the previous files in that USB, so I'm actually going to press OK. And it's deleting partitions. It's going to take a few moments to format the USB and the FAT32 system with a cluster size of 8192. Okay. Don't worry about that. Just press OK. to continue to format it's quite easy to use. It's going to take a few minutes. We're still in format. I don't know actually how to pronounce that word. I think it's formatting. It's going to create a file system and it's going to copy the ISO files. But the ISO file, it's approximately 2 gigabytes. And it's going to take also a little bit of time. Be patient about that. It's a fast procedure. And after that it's going to be ready. The next step is to take this USB, plug it in a computer, a laptop or PC, whatever you want, and when you boot, just have in mind to press F12 or F9, whatever key is going to put you in the boot selection screen of the computer that you're going to use. Most common is F12, F10, F9 or ESC buttons. Make sure that you know which one is the one that is going to take you to the USB, to the boot selection, so you can choose to boot from the USB and then it's ready to go. Quite easy, and if you want a more detailed actually information, let's have this in mind. Let it finish. Let it finish. It's not going to take a lot of time, but if you want, I'm going to put that in this way. And if you want to more details about how to do that, visit the simplicity. I don't even know how to write my own. Okay. Yeah, it's a simplicitypost.com. And this is actually nice magazine that we run, and if you move to Linux, you'll find that we have a lot of create a bootable live persistent USB this is where you're going to find more detailed information about how to use this. And this is another tool that you may want to use, a universal USB installer. It's doing the same thing, but Rufus it's more stable, I believe. And in this article, in this post, we used Kubuntu. It's actually the same, nothing changed, nothing changed in the procedure, but it's actually here. So, if you want more details and have all the information that you want, you can actually use this, read about it in the simplicity post. 2000 people already did it. It's quite useful, and also visit the site. It has a ton of information, not only about applications but also about entertainment. You can see there are a lot of interesting things to read in our magazine. So this is going to give you the, I'm going to put the, okay, I'm going to put the video also inside this. It's a beautiful article, and this is where I told you that you want to, okay, it's F12. I used the Toshiba Celeron, it was a Toshiba satellite. It's quite old, it's 10 years old, but it worked fine. And so we used F12, but you can also find it at F9 or ESC. It's going to put you to the boot menu of the computer, and you're going to use the USB. You're going to get down and use the USB so that you can boot from the USB. And you are going to find that it's going to ask you, do you want to install or try? In our case, Linux Mint. In the case of the article, it's Kubuntu, but it's going to be the same. We are going to try. Okay, we are ready, guys. We are ready. This is it. You can close that, and you will find that your USB is actually here with Linux Mint. Do you see that? That's it. It's ready for you to remove it from this computer and test it in any computer that you wish. And as I've told you, the first thing to do is plug the USB and then press the power button, and at the same time try to find which of the keys are going to guide you to the USB boot menu, and then choose the USB that you have installed the Linux installation. And after that, remember, you can download programs, you can keep files, you can write and you can write Word or presentations or whatever you want. You can create videos. Whatever you do, it's going to keep it inside, but do not update, as the post says, not to update the system or the kernel. It's not going to work if you update the system or the kernel. The solution is to find a stable and a nice distribution for you to use, but you cannot update the kernel or the system. It's not going to work. But it's a nice way to have a NOS in your fully Linux distribution operating system in your pocket, and use it in any computer, even if you're traveling, even if you want to use it even in your office or whenever you want to use it. You can do that quite easily with this procedure. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you the next time with another tutorial. Until then, stay safe.